Federal prosecutors are now asking for bond to be set at $9 million for Dr. Fata, the cancer doctor accused of fraud. Since our investigators first broke this story last week, many patients have come forward with some very gripping stories. The kind of stuff we're hearing shouldn't happen to anyone. So tonight we're taking action to help you know your rights and how you can protect yourself when it comes to patient care. Attorney Todd Flood is here now to help us find some answers to those questions. Todd, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Let's talk about patients' rights first and foremost.
Sure.
What recourse do these folks have?
Well, obviously they can go after the doctor individually, but those funds are limited. So that's going to be sketchy. How much money is there for them to collect? They can also look at perhaps maybe a better pocket or a better way to go at it. How was it that the hospitals allowed this care to be going and ongoing when in fact it was malpractice and for that matter criminal?
Yeah.
So there should be a two-pronged approach here. First, let's look at the doctor individually, and then second, let's look at the hospitals that allowed him to do what he was doing.
A lot of patients may be fearful to jump in because of the federal case against Dr. Fata, but you say if they've been wrong, they can start a case right now.
Sure. I mean, obviously, if there's criminal acts, you want to get into the situation, you want to have your case reviewed right away. There's time limitations to everything. You don't want to sit on the sidelines. You want to make sure that you have something put into review right away.
So the bottom line question is, who do you go after? Because if a doctor is somewhat insulated with insurance and malpractice and a hospital and several other, associates and whatnot, how do you find who's really responsible for this?
Well, that's just it. One, you go after the doctor. His insurance company, his malpractice carrier, is probably going to say, hey, we're not liable, we're not ponying anything up for a criminal act on this doctor. But that in and of itself, they also may say, hey, listen, there's not enough coverage, and we'll just give it all up. That's one. So go after the insurance carrier. Two, go after the doctor. I mean, you're looking at $62 million he allegedly made in 2 years in this fraud and in this scheme. So look at the doctor individually. And that's not dischargeable in bankruptcy. Third, look at the place for where he practiced. How was it that the check and balance in this case wasn't there? How was it that these procedures and these hospitals, for wherever he was at, allowed him to carry on with this practice? That's what you need to put under a microscope.
Todd, final question. Let's talk a bit about the bond. We understand there's a request for $9 million. It seems pretty high.
Well,
but tell me about it.
Yeah, there's two prongs to this, really. I break it down this simply. What is the likelihood of flight, and what is the danger to society? And you have several prongs you look at. Is he likely to flee? If he has $9 million somewhere in assets that he can get his hands on, $9 million can buy you out of the country.
So that's no coincidence. That's the assets, and that's kind of the bond. So that's the reason there.
And and they want to make sure that that his money is secured, and it's legitimate money, not some fraudulent money. They want to make sure it's legitimate income and that it's secured. But really, if you want to keep this person in the state and make them available, there's several ways to do it. The money can be punitive. The money can be one where it's something that no other person would have to do. Judge Cox, he will look at this. The prosecutor will argue. Defense will argue. He's not a flight risk, and he's not allowed to practice medicine anymore.
We'll wait and see. Todd, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for your expertise.
Thank you.